Hello and welcome to the show. I'm just trying to get myself organized. Hi, I'm Lisa Akbari. You're here, doctor. And today we are ready to start our cyber reading. We are moving along. I tell you, I'm so, oops, I've got so much stuff in the studio. I don't want to knock anything over. I'm super excited about the show because we're actually in week 17, and that's pretty big deal. And also, I'm going to do something because I got so many emails this past week, and one of the biggies was, okay, how do I get my shrunken fro to stretch out? And I really want to make sure that we do that today as my opening hairdo. I always do an opening hairstyle. So this is what I'm going to do. But we're going to talk about the book. The book, the book, the book, the book, the book. This is week 17. Can you guys believe it? And some of you are just like hanging out with me every week. And even the ones who don't hang out on live, you guys are really, you guys are looking at it later. So this is pretty cool. And the emails, the feedback that I'm getting is wonderful. This encourages me because I don't want to do this unless it's going to help. If it's not going to bless you and help you in your hair journey, whether it's natural, let me just get my fro all the way in there in the picture, whether it's natural or whether or not it's something that you're doing just with relaxed hair, whatever it is, I want to help you with your journey. So today I'm going to continue the book. We've been talking about moisture. We're on the chapter, on the section of the book on the hair. Okay. And one of the last thing I think we talked about was moisture. And let's see. Yeah, the importance of moisture and natural style. And then talked about natural styles. But I want to talk about really caring for kinky hair because most of my subscribers have natural hair, but I have a lot of subscribers that have relaxed hair and some that are relaxed that want to grow natural. Let's see if I can move over a little bit and get mine. There we go. All right. Okay, get myself there and I'll move back a little bit. How about that? Okay, so we're going to talk about caring for natural hair, natural kinky hair, and then combing and removing tangles. And then we may talk about some heated tools because that's a big deal. A lot of people want to do that. Even in the summer months, it was a time when you only like pressed your hair or did whatever you're going to do to your hair. In the winter months, it's for straightening it. But now people are wanting to do it year round. And the danger to straighten your hair if you have natural hair year round in the summertime or in the humid times is sometimes you're tempted to touch it up with the pressing comb, like go back and repress. And that could be problematic. We want to look at how to do that and do that safely. So I have pressing hair, but pressing hair is kind of the old school name for flat iron or whatever, but there are things called pressing combs. So we're going to talk about that as well as you guys are logging in. And then I'm going to go right to the hairstyle before we get into that. And if we have time, we're going to go to some chemically treated hair because we want to really deal with that. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm just going to go into the natural hair and combing and removing tangles, and then pressed hair. And then we're going to look at next week. I think that'll be good. Chemically treated hair, preparing the hair and scalp for chemicals and things like that. And don't let me lose some of you because some of you have what I call flight away from relaxers. Some of you want straight hair. Matter of fact, you've never worn a fro. You've gone from natural relaxed hair to a sew-in as a protective style. Then you move to, after you grew out enough, you move to just heated tools. So some of you really have never worn your hair in a fro, but you are what you call natural, which straight hair in any form is not really natural, and we know that. But we have a lot of problems with heat damage and things like that. So I always tell my patients, if you know you truly like straight hair, then I know some of you are going to criticize and you're going to be mad at me about it and whatever. But if you really like straight hair, it's better to relax the hair and roller wrap it instead of heated tools and burning it. Because there are two ways to overprocess the hair. It's through a pressing comb or a heated tool, pressured heat over use of it, or chemicals, chemical relaxers, things like that. So we want to really be careful, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do first, before we get to the book, the book, I'm going to do what I always do when I start is a hairstyle. But we're going to talk about caring for natural hair today and combing through and removing tangles and heated tools with natural hair and that kind of thing. So that's going to be pretty cool and pretty fun because I know that you want to get your pad and pens ready, or you can just look at the archive. Okay, so with that, let's see if I can get here. Now, one of the things that's really a challenge for a lot of folk is being able to stretch out their fro. And I had an email from someone and I responded and I said, if I can remember. But what I didn't do, guys, and I need to maybe perhaps go get this, but I didn't bring my blow dryer in the studio. But there's one, my studio, my institute is pretty big. It may have to have you guys hold on. And I can ask someone to bring it to me. I'll just send a text and I'll ask them, can you bring me a blow dryer? So, so that I can show you how to blow out your fro without causing damage to your hair and without overheating your hair. So let's see if we can get, it really would be faster to have someone call someone. And that's not good. That's not good. So let me just do this. Let me just send them a text and ask them to please bring a blow dryer to the studio. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Blow dryer is 2 words, Lisa, not 1 word. Blow dryer. Okay. Lisa, okay, wait a minute. Dryer to the studio. Okay. Hold on, guys. I have to do this now because we're live, so you have to do it. And I'm slow. I'm a pecker. I'm not a texter. But I'm not so old school that I'm not texting. There are a lot of folks that are old school that are not texting at all. But, at this point, everybody's got to text. You got to text something. It's in. Okay, so let's get that in. I'm telling them where it is, so I'm not that slow, guys. Because there's a certain one I want to bring. And I'm telling them I'm live, so I need it in a hurry. So just what I'm saying to them. Okay. All right, so I am live online, so I cannot. Yeah, there we go. So let's see if we can get that blow dryer. Okay, let's get organized. Here we are. I'm getting a little bit closer. Okay, so one of the first things you got to do is you got to have your product. If you're going to stretch out your fro, and let's take off, I always doing my little headband. And you can do a little bit of stretching, but it's kind of bouncing back in. So we want it to be big like you normally see my fro. Now, here's the thing. I wanted to let you know, if you're going to stretch out your fro, you need to keep in mind that it's going to take your hair from a kinky type to a loose kink. And sometimes it's going to take it to like a wave. It depends on your hair type. and how tight your curl pattern is. So it will stretch it out, but you're going to have to think about the kind of curl pattern you're going to end up with. So let's let my collar down because, you know, I pop my collar if I'm up. My hair is up. Okay, so first you got to decide what your hair needs. So you feel your hair and you said, okay, is my hair feeling dry or is it hydrated? Well, my hair is pretty hydrated. So we're going to start with, but we want as much curl definition as possible. So I'm going to do the naturally textured. So if my hair was feeling dry, I will use my hydration first, and then I will use the naturally textured. Okay, so both of those are my products. You have something, you know, I don't believe in fixing something that's not broken. So if you have something that you like, then you can use whatever you like. But I do believe in high quality products, and that's why I even made products in the first place. So because I just want to make sure that my hair is being protected and preserved as it should. So we're going to start with blotting the hair. So we're hydrating. Very good. You can come on in. You can come all the way there. It's like I don't want to be on camera. Oh, I gotta plug it up. Okay, so let's turn it this way. If you can plug it up for me, you can plug it here.
We don't have one of those things.
Yeah, you're gonna have to plug it back there. We didn't want to talk. Come on, we're live on air. Okay, so we're gonna have someone plug it up for me. You drop it, it's falling. Okay, my blood dryer is falling. Okay, now we've got to plug it up. If you got a place, do we have a place for it? Yeah. Okay, if it will plug, we're not going to unplug something. You can unplug the one on the end. I think we're good. Okay, so what I'm doing is...
How about that?
No, we're live, so you shouldn't talk. You have to be quiet. You have to just work. So we're going to put it on our ends first. And why do we always put it on our ends first? Let's see if it's working. Yay, we have air. Okay. There we go. So now here we are. Yes. Okay, so we're back on, and we have a blow dryer. Okay, so this is just to help with a stretch. So you put it on your ends. Why do we put it on our ends first? The reason we put it on our ends first is because we want to be able to open our hair up to get to our hair close to our scalp. So the first thing you do, and if you're just joining in, I'm going to stretch out my fro for you because I have that question again, and I know I've done it before, but I have it again. So once if you put your moisturizers, and as I started out, if my hair was feeling dry, I would have hydration and then naturally textured, but my hair feels hydrated, so I'm just going to use naturally textured to help me with the stretch. So now that I've got it on my ends, then I can now do what I call ear to ear, front to back. So you're going to work your product a little more on the ends, and you're taking it and you're smoothing till you get a nice ribbon smooth. So it's almost like your curl straightens all the way out. Okay? And you're just smoothing down. And then you take it and you get on the hair close to the scalp. So see, it's already stretching. Hair close to the scalp, all the way back. You take that and you smooth that down. Now watch how much it stretches now. And you're doing an even distribution of your products. So you're working it through. And then, see, look at that. It's already trying to stretch. And then you part it. So I'm going from the front of my head to the back of my head while I work my way to the other side of my head. So I always put a little more on the ends, and then I take it, stretch everything back, and see how tight that curl is. Well, I'm going to take it, but it's already stretched on the ends a little bit because I put product on the end. So now I am my natural texture on the end. I put it on this portion. Why do we put it on the hair close to the scalp? Because when you can put it on the hair close to the scalp, that's your tightest curl, because that's the baby hair. That's the new hair. So then you take that and you work it down. Now, you may have to have a little bit more, but believe me when I tell you, it'll spread down. So you're spreading it down, and you have to get it on the hair close to the scalp, because if you don't, it'll shrink back to the hair that didn't get any product, especially the baby hair. That's going to be the curliest hair. So I'm going through just to kind of feel And then I'm going to take my finger and thumb, my fingers and thumb, and I'm smoothing, and I'm using from the back, and I'm coming around the front, and I'm just going to finger and thumb, and then I'm still going to do this because you want to smooth it the direction that cuticle is going, so you're not roughly handling the hair and here. So it's stretching already. So then I'm going to go next because we've got it already parted. Now, if you run into a kink, if you can't slide it straight through, don't yank, yank, yank. See, try to slide it through. And if you can't, you're hearing that snap, crackle, what's going to happen next? Pop. And if it pops, then you got a problem. So this is the ends where I've already put a little bit of product on. It's stretching. You see, it's trying to draw back up, but it still has a little bit of definition because we're using the naturally texture. So I'm going to put a little more on the ends. We're going to go all the way to the back. And it's really quick. For teaching purposes, I'm going this slow, but it's really a quick process. And if I'm like, okay, I'm going to something special that night and I want a big fro, then I do this and then I finish getting dressed in an hour or 30 minutes. You'll see at the end of the show, my hair is going to be stretched out. So I'm going all the way down, and then I'm going to make sure that it's smooth. And I always blend it with the rest of the hair. See, I'm going to my ends back here because you really can feel for it to make sure you have enough. And then I'm going to work that hair, see, all the way down. And the key is to smooth the hair. And smooth. You always have to smooth through. And what we're doing is stretching this fro out so that we can have a larger fro. Now, some of you, what is that? Okay, yeah, see that area? You have to make sure that that even distribution and product placement is there, okay? And if you don't have that even distribution, and see what I'm doing, I'm taking it, and see that's the very piece that'll draw up and make it hard for me to have a stretched out fro. But see, you see how when I put my product on, my hydration, my moisturizer, and I'm using naturally textured. So the naturally textured moisturizer, it stretches out a little better. See that? It's not so drawn up. Okay, and you move that down. And then you're ready for the opposite side. Now, I tend to, when I get on my left side, because I'm right-handed, I tend to do this a little different. And I know you're here for the cyber reading, but this is really important, and somebody's going to love that I'm doing this. Okay, so as you go in and out, then I'm working my ends. Okay, that's the opposite side. And then I'm going to start going just like I did on the opposite side. I'm going to go from the front of the head. See, I got a little kink. So I take my forefinger and thumb, smooth, and then it opens right up. If you pull at that, you're going to create what we call a microscopic tear. And that microscopic tear is going to cost you elasticity. And if you get poor elasticity in that area, then your hair won't stretch. It'll just break. So that's what you don't want. So you work it back there and make sure you got enough. And then you take that, you've got it on the ends, and you're smoothing it down. And that's what I'm doing. And then I take those ends. Now, remember, we want to try to get them as ribbon smooth as we can, because if we do that, then we'll have more chances of it stretching out. Okay, and then we're going to take our next section. And we're just going to do one more after this one. And we're going to put a little bit on the ends. And then we're going to move this over, hold that here, and bring it here. Or you can start from the front. And see the difference in how that hair is drawn up. And even here, it's still drawn. That's why you're going to use your scrunchie to stretch it and let it set in place. So then we smooth all this down. Again, you're just taking your fingers and your thumbs. Man, I am so incredibly tan. I mean, I have this wonderful dark chocolate skin anyway. I love, love, love. Thank you, Lord. But it's really tan. My hands. Because I'm outside a lot. I love the summertime. Love it, love it, love it. So, yay. Okay. And then we move The only thing I just don't like it when I turn kind of gray looking. I don't know. We used to call it ashy when we were growing up. I know that's weird. You probably think it's shit. I can't believe she said that. Well, we did. And then you smooth. This is our last section. And again, this area right here where we sleep and we lay back on our head, and like with me in my car, I'll have my head back on the headrest. That area kind of tangles up through there. So you got to take an extra few minutes to get it on those small curls. So you take your moisture and then you take your forefinger and thumb, or your fingers and thumb, not all of them, but just like maybe a forefinger and thumb or two fingers and a thumb, and smooth it so you got that even distribution. Because everywhere you don't get the product is where it won't be distributed. So that hair will try to spring up and kink up tighter than the rest of the hair. So now we've got it on everything. So now it's time to put our scrunchie on. And so we go around our hairline. And depending on how much you want your hairline to lay down, and I'm still kind of tight, I am, but I'm going to use my, my trusty blue. And I'm going to take my hair and I'm going to put it in this scrunchie, and I'm going to stretch this hair out. So I always want to lift in the center, because sometimes we stretch it and we don't get the center hair up and out on top of that ponytail holder. And so we're going to take it and we're pulling through. And here we go. And so, and then we go through and we take our scrunchie and we pull it and stretch it, and stretch till we can stretch our ponytail out as far as we can. And then we take it and we cuff it like this. As my thumb is under there, but don't let the ends all the way out. So you're stretching the ends. So you have this little ball like that. And then you can take your blow dryer, and you take your blow dryer and you can hold it against your hair, and you smooth and hold your blow dryer. If you can hear me, you smooth and hold your blow dryer against your hair, and what it's doing is straightening out this part of your hair, your base. You can see how my hair is beginning to straighten out because you have that moisturizer at the base. And you just hold it against there. No heat damage because you're not holding in one spot. It's indirect heat. It's almost like sitting on a hair dryer. And you're holding it up. And the same on the opposite side. You got a little kink there. We want to get some natural texture on that. We want that to wave. We don't want that to be kinky. Let me see. Make sure you get your forefinger and thumb. Okay, there you go. And then you hold that up and straighten that out. You see how that tries to straighten out? See that? So it's wave. And you smooth that up like that. And then you take that piece and you stretch that out. Now, one thing you can do, if we want to just make this the quickest fix, we can take our scrunchie and pull the ends loose so we can see the ends. And let's turn it off for a minute. So we'll take our scrunchie loose and see the ends. And then that way, see, we got the ends there. Tighten our scrunchie back up. Take the ends of the hair. And then we take our blow dryer and we go to the base. And there we go. And we stretch out our curl. See what I'm doing? I'm stretching it out. Now that may not seem like much to you, but when we finish, you're going to see what it does. So, and then as we're taking it off, we just stretch it out. We're holding it up and we're stretching it out. We're stretching out our fro. Now, let's take it and see what we got, guys. But you're like, let me see. Woo! We are stretched out. Let's shake it, shake it. Shake it. But they used to say shake it, but don't break it. We seriously don't want to break our hair, so we're going to shake it and not break it. Okay, so we are stretched out. Now it's going to draw some. Now I like a frizzy fro, but I like some definition. So what you're seeing here is my fro stretched out. Now you got to give yourself a chance to place it, especially if you got a fro that's really too big to be a fro, like mine. So you got to kind of place it. So I always try to place my front hairline and give that little whimsical, little wisp of bang or something. So have that little look. And as I said, the more you stretch it out, the more you're going to have more of a wave instead of a really super curly look. So, but you can see I still have my curl definition there. And let's get it fluffed in the crown. Let me push back a little bit so you can really see. There we go. And then you kind of pat it in the way you want it for shape and leave whatever out you want to leave out. And now you've got your fro. So you have a fro that's blown out. Now you go back and you rewind this later on and you'll see how small my fro was. And in a matter of minutes, my fro is out big. See, here we go. So you can see. And I have this wisp of hair. Now you don't have to do that. You can take it and bring it back. Bring it over to the side and do this. And just have a big round fro. It's really up to you and what you want. And remember back in the 70s, we used to just kind of pat our fro up. So some of you who don't want to show your forehead or your 5 head, or I have like a 2.5 head. See, oh, it's so funny because we were like, I don't want to show my forehead and this beautiful face that y'all have under there. But I'm not criticizing, because what motivates you in that mirror, if you don't like your forehead showing, then you don't have to have your forehead showing. So that first look, that first part that I did with the bang, see, but here we are, and there it is. Now I have a big fro. Is that cute or what? What do you guys think? Okay, so let's get closer to the screen again. And then, whoops, and we're going to be ready. So now when you go back, I'm going to start the book. But when you go back, you can take a look at my before and then my after. And now, and there it is. We did it. See, fro, click. Now we can get a shot of that with the book. Okay, so now you have that. That's how that's an easy, quick way to stretch out your fro. So we're going to talk about the book. Today we're going to talk about, we're in week 17. Yay. I'm so excited about that. And first I want to thank all of you who tuned in on Sunday. You know, I have a radio talk show called Ask the Hair Doctor, and it's on the local WDIA radio station, but it's through iHeartRadio, which is national and international. So you can actually download the iHeart app and listen to it from anywhere in the world. So you can do that. It's through iHeart. And so if you download their app, then, or you can actually go to my website, and then you will be able to hear it on the day of. And I usually archive my show, but it's every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. This week, we're going to talk to the fellas. It's Father's Day. So, yeah, and I know I'm dating my show. So all the reruns will say, no, it's not Father's Day. It's Father's Day right now, coming up. This is the 14th of June, 2016. So this Sunday will be Father's Day show. But it will be archived. I'm really excited about that show because we don't do a lot for the fellas, and we want to do that. So if you have husbands or sons or whatever, we're going to talk about hair loss with men, male pattern baldness, implants, all those things, all those questions, itchy scalp with men. And I also have on my website a page that for men. It's called For Men, and just ask the hair doctor. So we're going to talk about, you can view that page if you like. But we are in week 17 of the book, and we've been talking about the hair. That's our last part of the book. And then we have the program. That's going to be the very, very last. and some things about hair and salon visits and things like that. But this week, we're going to talk about caring for natural hair. And I think I ended it a little bit with that last show, but we're going to do caring for natural hair. And let's make sure, let's see if you guys got some chats, questions. We can start with those. Let's see if we can get to this particular show, week 17, and see how we can get on. And some things about hair and salon visits and things like that. But this week, we're going to talk about caring for natural. Turn you down, Lisa. Okay, because you're going to get that feedback. Okay, will you be at the Natural in the City? That's a great question. Actually, I will. I was asked to speak about the science of natural hair. So yes, I definitely will be there. Yes, I will be there at, I think about a 1 p.m., but just kind of check their website later on. They've asked me and I have said I will be there. So yes, I will. Your hair looks great. Thank you, Ashley, for that compliment. Okay, so I have you so I can pick up your chats. Let's go back to, okay, so we are there. See, now I just have to find in myself. Here we are. So I'm going to move me over here, and then I'm going to have you guys over here so that I can pick up your chats. So if you have a question for me, just jump right in there, and I will pick that question up as we move along and talk about the book. Okay. All right. So caring for natural hair. The basic things that you need to keep in mind when caring for natural hair or hair period is cleansing and conditioning. Because basically what we're trying to do is to protect and preserve our hair. Hair is just dead keratinized cells. So in order to keep healthy hair that looks like it just has body, and hair that looks alive, even though it's dead keratinized cells, protein cells, in the form of a thread-like fiber called hair. In order to keep that looking that way, what you basically have to do is to make sure that you take care of it, protect and preserve it. The main things you have to clean and condition. I know I've been repeating myself, but you really should think about how often you shampoo, and you have to shampoo inside of 7 days. I always recommend twice a week if you're any active at all, but because after 3 days, we start to get natural buildup of our scalp and environmental pollutants and other things. So it's really important for us to think about how often we clean. And we need to make sure that we are deep conditioning. And deep conditioning, I would do at least once a week, especially if you're shampooing more than once a week. It depends on how active you are, how often you shampoo, but I would definitely think about how I deep condition my hair, because you want to balance. One of the key things besides cleaning is to balance your protein and moisture levels within your hair shaft. And so you want to look for shampoos that are clarifiers, but they have to have the pH 4.5 to 5.5. And then you want to look for conditioners that give you both protein and moisture. I'm not going to talk about ingredients. I'm not going to talk about brand names. I'm not going to do that. I want you to do your research. Okay, now, but you just want to do as much natural as you can. There's some man-made items that are wonderful, but to hydrate your hair, the best ones are the ones that are going to be more natural. Okay, let's see. Because think about it, when you have dirty hair, the dirtier the hair is, the drier it's going to be. And I talk about this. Let's see, we're in like page 125 of the book. If you're trying to follow me, 125, because I just want to give you that little breakdown. So this all in the book. Now, when I say dirty hair becomes drier and it's harder to manage, so keeping the hair clean is important. Condition natural hair once a week with deep penetrating proteins and moisture conditioners, and you want to daily hydrate the hair and daily seal in your moisture. So that's going to be crucial. So once you put the hydration on, you want to put oil on top of it to seal in the moisture. That keeps it from dissipating as much. And you don't really need a lot, especially in the summer, or if you're in a humid climate. You want to use more when you get in the drier climates or winter in some cases, depending on where you live in the country or world. Let's see. So now, if you do that, clean hair will enable all your conditioners to really penetrate as they should into the hair shaft or the hair strand. While conditioning the hair, you want to keep it strong and manageable. So protein is going to give it strength, moisture is going to give it hydration. So you have strong, manageable hair, and it's not breaking everywhere. Okay, so now combing, and let's talk about this because this is crucial. How you comb your hair is also very important, because keep in mind for every tangle you pull away or detangle, every time you detangle, you are creating 2 or more tangles, because tangles come from your cuticle, and each new tangle creates a new tear on the hair strand, which will result in poor elasticity. Then the hair will mat, entangle even more, and come out easily, break easily, even with simple combing. So you have to really think about that. So what do? How do we remove these tangles? First, and I'm trying to let's see if I can adjust the screen so you can at least see half of my face. There we go. Here we are. Okay. Now, first, remember never to comb dry hair. You don't want to comb the hair. And if you're going to comb your hair, you need to think about, why am I combing? For grooming purposes, if you want to groom your hair at that point. But you can use your fingers. I call it your human comb. That's where you can feel it. So if you get to a kink, you can use fingers and thumb, and you can smooth it out, pressing your product in. And then you slide through. If you get to a kink, break the wrist and forefinger and thumb until you're pressing into that kink. Press your product in. And I have a product called Hydrating Detangling Souffle, and it's on my website. It is wonderful. I had to create that product because there were so many people who were detangling, and it's like, and moms, there were so many moms that were just at their wits' end. They just didn't know what to do with their daughter's hair, and they were pulling it. The kid was like, "Mom, you're killing me." And it was just a mess. So we had to do something. So I came up with that product. I call it the cheat product. It cheats. Instead of you taking your time and doing the work, but you still have to take your time, but it still helps you. So you can put a drop of that in a tangle, put your forefinger and thumb, and literally press that tangle right out. So it is pretty cool, but you just don't want to find yourself playing tug of war, or that raking technique that we tend to do to move the tangles. Old school, I can remember even myself before I knew better, because I'm always conducting studies to prove these theories that I have about why we lose hair. And one of the things, when I was looking at my tangle study, why does our hair tangle, what I realized is, even with the large tooth comb, we used to say start at the scalp, or no, start at the ends and work your way up with a large tooth comb. Well, that's a problem, because you can rip and tear. So that was one thing that, we just have to be careful about. Now, I want to tell you, because I still have this large fro and it's shrinking a little. If you really want to keep it stretched out longer, it's best to wear it in the scrunchie. So I'm going to put it in a scrunchie until the end of the show, just so you can see. You saw the way to do it with heated tools. Let's just put it back in our scrunchie, and I'm going to wear my scrunchie until the end of the show. So we're going to stretch and stretch and stretch, and then we'll leave it that way. And then I'm going to put it in one of my headbands on. Remember, we talked about these headbands. You can actually find them anywhere, in any little store where they sell added hair. And now it's this little ribbon. They're nylon little ribbons that are woven together, and you just pull it on like that. So, of course, I have to pop my collar if I'm going to pull my hair up like that. And there you have it. And there it is. Okay, so we're ready to continue, because I want to get through this. I want to make sure I give you plenty today. if you have a question for me, you're welcome to chat and ask that question. Now we say, let's see, do we have folks online? We do. You guys are there. Okay, so we don't want to use a large tooth comb because you don't want to remove your tangles with a comb. You want to remove your tangles with your product and then your fingers. And I don't mean wiggling through. I mean pressing into the core of the tangle and then smoothing through. All right? Okay, so the longer the hair is, the larger the comb is to groom with. So if you have a big fro, you're going to groom through the hair with a large tooth comb. And you can use the comb for even distribution. I like to use my fingers for it all because I can always feel. I can't feel with a comb. I can feel with my fingers when I know I've hit a kink. So then I can break the wrist and go, okay. And then I can be careful to smooth it out. That's just what I think is the best thing. I have medium to extreme kinky hair. So I used to wear, see, I said on the book, I wear a texturized relaxer, but I no longer do. I used to wear a texturized relaxer until I came up with my product Naturally Textured. Now I don't wear a texturized relaxer because it makes the hair look like a texturizer. So that's one of the things that I have in my book, but that's no longer. This book is older and but it's still relevant. So we like to make sure we continue to do these reads from it. I also wear a permanent color. At the time I was wearing a permanent color. I'm so glad that I'm reading this because I no longer wear a permanent color. And my hair was shoulder length at the time. So I use a big plastic rake type comb. I didn't rake my hair. I didn't pick my hair. I just used it to comb through. You know that old fashioned Afro rake comb? I had one of those. Loved it, but mine was a hard plastic. It wasn't that metal. Remember that metal was like a weapon. Okay, the whole idea is to find a comb that will not pull your hair when you're grooming, but you do not remove your tangles with the comb. Also, you will need a good leave-in conditioner and, of course, your moisturizer. And like I said, I mentioned the hydrating detangling souffle. And I talked about how you should do this. So it's all in the book. And I moved on to 126. So I have videos. If you email me, I'll email you a link on how I detangle my hair if I have tangles, which I generally don't. But I show you the technique or the steps. The thing is, when you lay on your head, that's one of the things to avoid tangles. When you lay on your fro, at night. Some of you will say, oh, I just go to bed or I put a bonnet on it. Those things are problematic because the minute you do that, your fro pushes to your head. And when your fro pushes to your head, then your fro is going to be start to web and start to tangle. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's see. Now, send me an email. And what I want to do, I want to be smart, and I want to put a link on that at the bottom of the page. Just if you don't get one, just if I forget or if I get off the air and it's late and I don't put it down there, just request it, and I will put a link right at the bottom of the page. I think I'll remember. I just don't have a pad here to remind me. Okay, so this helps you to detangle. So keep in mind, you want to avoid tangles. But if you have to detangle, you want to do it properly. What I always tell my patients is, and clients of my salon, I have a salon and we have the clinic, especially with the fragile patients when they're losing hair. Most people who come to see me are losing hair or have chronic scalp problems. What I always try to tell them is make sure you don't create a tangle. You don't create a tangle, then you don't have to remove a tangle. Someone said, do you use a satin pillowcase instead? Absolutely use a satin pillowcase. I use a satin pillowcase because I don't want to put anything on my head. I don't want a satin scarf. And the cotton pillowcase is really drying to the hair. So you really want to use something that's smooth and hair friendly. So it can be the fake satin. As long as it's a smooth fabric. I've told patients who say, well, you know, they're expensive or I can't afford it. I said, get an old slip, nylon, treat it to look like, and silk or satin, and then cut it and tie it around your pillow. If you have to, just old school, something you could do. But yes, I use a satin pillowcase and I keep it on my pillow, and then I take it off and wash it and do what I have to do. But I don't wear anything on my head. And I do a curly fro, and I have that on one of my videos as well. So yes, that was a question from Ashley. Okay, so let's talk about heated tools because that's a biggie. Heated tools are important. We want to wear heated tools. That's not a problem to wear heated tools. But how do we wear heated tools safely? Again, when you're caring for your natural hair, the ultimate goal is to protect and preserve it so that your hair does not break. Your hair, you don't have those kind of problems with your hair. So if you say, well, I want to use heated tools, that's fine. But keep in mind, straightening your hair, whether it's pressing it, old school, or whether it's flat iron, this is the latest new thing. But by the time some of you see this video years from now, who knows? They may have something else, some other way to straighten your hair. But the bottom line is, if you straighten your natural hair, you need to make sure you look at several things, okay? One, you want to make sure that you have only flat iron or press out or straighten out clean, hydrated hair. Number two, you need to look at and try to use one pressured heat. What is pressured heat? Okay, pressured heat is the very direct contact with that heat to your hair. What's more indirect? Let's go from indirect to direct heat, because this is how we overprocess our hair, and y'all are calling it heat damage, but it's really overprocessing the hair with a heated tool. So the way we do that is by taking that heated tool and we're putting it on dirty hair, or we're putting it on pressing our hair with oils or those little silicones or whatever y'all use, and then we're putting it against that hair and we're putting too much heat. So that's how we end up over processing it. So let's take a question. We said, how do you prevent tangles? The way you prevent, very good question, because I said the best way not to have to detangle is not to create a tangle. The way you prevent tangles is by two things. One, the tangles and the little fairy knots. Y'all call them fairy knots. One is by making sure you deep condition at least once a week. Two is by making sure that you dress your hair for bed every night. That means you have to dress your hair for bed. You have to make sure that you're putting products, a leave-in conditioner, a moisturizer on your ends, and smoothing it through your ends and twisting or plaiting. And it can be large plaits. It doesn't have to be something tight. And you have to do it every night and sleep on a satin pillowcase. And then in the morning, you have to put oil on your fingers and reverse those twists. Now you may say, I have a twist out, or I have a braids, or I have something I leave in. If you're keeping your hair strand covered, then that's fine. Y'all call it protective styles. If you're keeping it covered, then that's fine. But you have to still treat the hair. So you have to do things like, number one, you have to put spray your leave-in conditioner right into the braid if you have a sew-in, or right on top of the twist or flat braids if you're going to leave it in. And then you have to put moisturizer on top of it and squeeze it in. I always tell my patients or the clients, after they are in maintenance or prevention and they start enjoying their hair and wearing styles, I tell them to get my souffle, and it has a little Yorker tip like this. And you stick it in the inside of that twist and put one little squeeze. And then once you put the squeeze in, you press it into that twist so that you get that in the product into the core of the tangles. And once you do that, or into core, right into the hair where your hair is, once you do that, you smooth back. You can oil between the parts, and then you can tie it down. That's when you really want to tie down, because that serves two purposes. Number one, it keeps your flat braids or your braids looking neat. But the main thing, it pushes that product deep into the hair. So when you take your braids down, or even when you take your weave down, then you won't have that matted hair that pulls out. with it. So here we go. What is the question? You said, should we put something on our hair to protect it from heat device? Yes. So what I was doing was backing up and answering her question about preventing tangles. And so now let's move forward with heated tools. Yes, you need to put something on your hair. And I have a product called Cool Down. Cool Down is a heat protectant, but you must have a heat protectant. But let's talk about the whole steps that I was about to go into. Number one, you only want to use heated tools on clean hair. So if you're going to heated tool your hair every day, you need to clean and hydrate your hair every day. So clean, hydrated hair. So you got to shampoo, condition it, or you only use it on hair that's freshly clean and hydrated. Number two, you want to choose the kind of heat that you're going to use. If you're going to have heated tools, you want to make sure it's as indirect as possible. So you want to use only one pressured heat. So you don't flat iron, then, oh, excuse me, what is it? You use the bumper curl and then flat iron. You don't want to do both of those. You really don't want to use a blow dryer with a comb attachment. The best thing to do is to put on your leave-in conditioner, a moisturizer, or a product, a protectant. We use one called Cool Down, but you want to hydrate the hair. And then you sit under the dryer and let that hair dry under the dryer, smooth as possible. Pull it back into a scrunchie and stretch it out. Or you plait it and sleep on it overnight and get up and press it in the morning, or flat iron in the morning. Then you can apply extra moisturizer, a small amount. Why are we using moisturizer and not oils? Because moisturizer tends to keep the hair cooler. You remember when we were growing up and you would get your hair pressed and you hear that sizzling? Yes, heat causes the hair to, oils cause the hair to heat up faster. So be really careful to use products that are hydrated. Now, it's not going to turn the hair back. It's going to go into the hair, keep it cool, protect it. So what your goal is to keep the hair hot temperature from rising so quickly, and your goal is to make sure that your hair doesn't dry out, because that's when you have the most problems. All right, next you want to look at the amount of heat you're using, not amount in terms of how often, how high or how hot the heated tool is. When that heated tool is hot, it's overheated, then what you're doing is you're causing a problem with your cuticle layer, your top layer, your protective layer to burn away, and then you're going to burn into the cortex, which is where your strength bonds are, which is where your hair, the structure of the hair is formed, and it's going to flatten it out permanently, and then you have what y'all call heat damage, but what in essence is really overprocessed with a heated tool. So now you're overprocessed. So you want to have, for fine hair, you want to make sure that you're using, for fine hair, you want to make sure you're using no more heat than a 100, 150. You might go 175, and you'll hear that varies. It depends on how porous your hair is. Then you want, for medium hair, you can go between 150 and 300. And then for coarse hair, you can do 300 to even 400. Because the cuticle, you have more of them, the hair is thicker, and it'll tolerate more heat. But if you are going to try and do a 400 on a fine hair, you're going to burn the hair, and you're going to straighten the hair permanent, because it's going to go straight through those thin cuticles, and it's going to flatten. So when you wet your hair is still straight, then you know that you are overprocessed with a heated tool, or like y'all like to call it, heat damage. It says, will you consider to sell your products on the ground in more locations in the near future? Oh, bless you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right now, what I want to do is make sure that the education piece is attached. We're doing some things this year to really, let me just back up. What I mean by the education piece, I don't want you to purchase my product and me not support you. You know, and you guys will attest to that, there are thousands of products out there, and everybody's saying their product is the best. Well, and there are some great products out there, I will admit. But I think that if, as a woman, I could take any product, I don't care how good it is, and if I'm not taught about my hair, then I'm going to use that product incorrectly and I'm going to have products. I will have problems with my hair anyway. And then I'm going to say the product's not working. So I want that education piece tied to it. So I'm being a little selective where I put it. That's why we do so much online. And I was just looking at my videos. I have 400 or more videos. A lot of them are training videos because I have about over 100 of them that I use to train staff and consultants and people like that. But I have most of these videos are for you guys to teach you how to take care of your hair. So that's a big support that I do. And of course, I blog every Tuesday, unless, of course, like last Tuesday I missed. And then I have the talk show now. So I'm always streaming live because I always want to make sure that you guys have what you need. So yes, I want to put the product in the near future in other places. But what I'm doing is I'm attaching to stores. I'm going to look at some stores. And I was in Whole Foods, but we kind of pulled back and we're going to come back in a little different way so we can do a national process with them. And then some other stores. There are other stores, you know, Kroger, there's some other Trader Joe's and whatever other stores. But I would go into my local stores and ask them, hey, listen, I want to know if you could carry this product. And that helps you as well because they do listen to consumers. So that's one of the things I do. But with the heated tools, guys, it's not how often, it's what happens on contact. Because I have patients that come in and they'll say to me, you know, I only use heated tools maybe once a year or once a month, or it's never how often. It's what happens on contact. If you overheat your hair, it is going to cause what we call a meltdown. Your cuticles will begin to melt away and your hair strand will thin, and then you'll burn and you'll be permanently straight. So you want to be careful with that. And that's so crucial. So you have to shampoo the condition, and you have to do things like keep your hair hydrated, protecting the hair, and those things that will keep you from over processing your hair. It's all in the book, Black Woman's Guide to Beautiful Hair. And of course, I have other videos just specifically on heated tools only, not just to pluck it out in one of our different one of my books chapters. I kind of drifted away. I was trying to see what else I had in here, and it's going to vary. I'm always conducting studies, so I'll sometimes say never go over 150, never go over 300. But now what I realize is that with coarse hair, you can actually go up to 400 degrees. And I never thought that would be possible. Now, here's the thing you have to look at. Some patients have, or clients have, hair that's coarse at the hair close to the scalp, and they have what we call a texture change. Now, texture deals with the size of your strand. So they have like a texture change toward the ends. And what that means, they can use certain temperature at the scalp hair, and the rest of the hair, they have to have less heat. So the lower temperature. So what I recommend is just you use lower temperature all over. And that's what I recommend. So, okay, so we are out of time. Do we have any more questions? Next week, we're going to talk about chemical treated hair. So tell your girlfriends or your friends that we are going to talk about chemically treated hair. Okay, my sisters, don't be mad because I know y'all want all the attention on natural hair, and I give you love. I give you all the love. Look, I got to do, I'm a professional. I've got to help my sisters with relaxed hair because they're out there. It's nothing wrong with relaxed hair. It's just the way you manage it, and we're going to talk about that. And other chemicals, color, things like that. All right, so we're going to take my hair now, and then we're going to say goodbye. Okay, so let's see how much my fro has stretched out. We're going to slide my ponytail holder off. We're going to take my scrunchie off, and then we're going to see it stretched even more. Look at that. And you can still see that I have curl pattern and it's stretched. Let's push back. I'd rather shake my bang down than do a lot of pulling because even though I love a frizzy fro, it just kind of, yeah, see there, now that's what I like that little I call it the whimsical look, and it has a wisp of hair. I'm getting kind of a flat head, so I have to kind of move it over to one side because my hair has gotten so long, so I have to kind of open it up and do that little side part. You know that 70s thing that was done. So I'm kind of telling my age here. No worries. Oops, I gotta pull my collar down. There we go. Here we go. And just kind of, oops. Put it here on my eyelash. There we go. And we're lifting. What do y'all think? Cute? Yeah, pretty cool. Okay. All right, let's see if we have one additional question. Make sure you guys, Sunday's Father's Day. Make sure that you guys tell your husbands, your boyfriends, your sons about the show, because we're going to talk about men and their hair and all the things that they go through. And really, Sunday is my talk show, my radio talk show. I have iHeartRadio. You just have to get the iHeart app, or you go to my website and you can tune in from there, WDIA Studios and iHeartRadio. And then we're going to talk about male pattern baldness, implants. There are lots of guys who just don't understand about implants. I'm going to go into detail about that. And then my phone lines will be open so that you can call in. So with this, we can chat in, but we can actually pick up the phone and call in. So I'll have a number that you can call in, and you can ask the hair doctor. So I love you guys. I will talk to you on Sunday, and I will be streaming live, so you'll get an alert and of course, my trusty, wonderful, I love her so much, social media manager, Miss Nisi, she will send you guys she'll Instagram and Facebook it, and all of those social things that she does. She'll make sure that you guys are in the loop and you know what I'm doing. So pretty cool. And so she'll make sure, and so you'll get an alert, and we'll be there. I know it's a holiday, but my show doesn't come on until 5 p.m. Everybody's had their dinner. They're laying back. They've given their gifts out, and they may just want to chill with me, the hair doctor. So I'll be right there. That's this Sunday, from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I'm Lisa Akbari, your hair doctor. To God be the glory, in Jesus, you know who I serve. And I thank you guys so much for tuning in today to the show as we continue the book. I know it's corny and I know I'm goofy, but this is the only time. That's why I love my cyber family so much, because this is the only time I get to be this goofy. Because when I'm in with my patients, I have to be a little more serious. But guys, so much. I love you. And I will see you next week as we continue the book. But I'll see you Sunday on Ask the Hair Doctor as we celebrate our men, the men in our life, the men and boys in our life, and talk about their problems. Because ladies, you get all of the love. But now it's time to give men some of the love. So we're going to talk about them. Thank you so much. I will see you then. To God be the glory, and you have a blessed, wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon.